Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. Currently, we are in the Gospel of John, and we are in chapter 1. And boy, what a revelation this is as John's genealogy takes us back in eternity past to the very beginning God, but what you would see. In other words, you go back in eternity past as far as it is possible to travel in the past. You would run into God because God is the beginning. Excuse me, God is the beginning. But then he says, in the beginning was the Word. So what you would see is not the essence of God, but the revelation, excuse me, the manifestation, the revelation of God. Or as Colossians says, he is the image of the invisible God. So you would see God. The Word. You would see Jesus, you would see the Word, because he is the image of the invisible God. Okay, so that's Jesus' genealogy. And in revealing this genealogy, he reveals the very nature of Jesus, which is the divine God. Now, we talked about the Trinity, and there's much debate over the Trinity. And even if you don't want to use the word Trinity, because people get caught up, Trinity is a theological term, and it's just like with all academics, when you study something and you research something, whatever, and you coin terms. Okay, that's all that is. But the meaning, okay, of the Trinity is what's sound, because it basically said, okay, so how do we describe, how do we explain then the nature of Jesus? How do we explain that? Well, the nature of Jesus can be explained, and this is how they explain it, that we have one God, and that Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit are one God, one in the same God, one in essence, one in nature, but revealed in three persons. And the persons are identities, separate identities, yet and aware of their unique identities within the Godhead. I know that's a lot to take. And so as we are studying this, then the John is giving us, this is how you would conclude when you put all of these scriptures that describe Jesus. So Colossians 1, he is the image of the invisible God. John says, in the beginning was the Word. All things were created by him. Colossians says that all things were created by him and for him. So all of these explain. That's all, it's a revelation. And so when you put that together, that's when you would say that the persons of the Godhead revealed. Okay, and if you don't want to abide by that, fine. But you still got to explain what we are explaining in John. Okay, in John, how do you then you have to explain this, right? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and then the Word was God. He was with God, and notice he was with God in the beginning, and then all things were created through him, and apart from him, not one thing that was created that has been created. So if you say Jesus is not God, then you have to explain why Genesis 1 says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Isaiah, passages in Isaiah that says that I am God, there is no one beside me, and yet we see this revelation here of the Word. So this, again, this is the genealogy of Jesus, tracing all the way back to his very nature as God. Okay? All right, so in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things were created through him, and apart from him, not one thing was created that has been created. Now look at this, part of his nature. Verse 4, life was in him, and that life was the light of men. That light shines in the darkness, yet the darkness did not overcome him. So that here, the first 5 verses give us the very nature of Jesus in this genealogy. That's really what this is, John's genealogy. And so he says, life was in him. Now, this is going to be a very astonishing revelation when we get, as we read in verse 14, that, the Word became flesh. And this is why we say that when you look at now the Word become flesh, you see that the Word, Jesus, was 100% man, yet at the same time 100% God. I'll get more into the modalism theology when we get to verse 14. Okay, I'll revisit that. So, all right. So, in him was life, and in that life was the light of men. So and that light shines in the darkness, and yet the darkness did not overcome it. Now, verse 6 says, there was a man named John who was sent from God, and he came as a witness to testify about the light, so that all might believe through him. Now, notice this phrase so that all might believe through him. Now, there's some things that we're going to inadvertently tackle. One would be Calvinism. And one of the things about Calvinism, and I'm going to probably save the bulk of this for John 6, because that's a crown jewel chapter. Okay? And so notice that the purpose he came as a witness to testify about the light, so that all might believe through him. So John's testimony was given so that what? You might believe. Look at verse 8. He was not that light, but he came to testify about the light, the true light, who gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. Okay? Now, this term world here is, there are a couple of, there's the cosmos, there is the kind of the stellar star, and the essence kind of the term world is kind of an organized system. So whatever you attach to it is the organized system. So when we think about the universe is an organized system. There are galaxies orbiting all around, right? Hundreds of billions of galaxies, we're told, but in an orderly system, not chaotic. And then there is the systems of the world. And that's going to be very important. The systems of the world, the organized government, the organized institutions such as the financial institutions, all these different institutions that make up in the world. Okay, then also the people of the world. And then you can always tell the context tells us what is meant here. So in other words, we have one word for world, but yet at the same time, you have the people of the world, right? And we'll see that. And then you have the systems of the world, and then as well as the stars and the moon. And again, the context will tell us what he means. Now you may think why I'm kind of emphasizing that is because there are people that try to confuse you, Calvinists, about what the term world means. Okay. So the true light who gives light to everyone was coming into the world, meaning the what? Systems of the world of this planet. He said, then verse 10, he was in the world. He was in the world. And the world was created through him. So even the systems of the world were created through Jesus. He says he was in the world, and the world was created through him, yet the world did not recognize him. Now again, at this point of reading, you kind of we haven't gotten to the place of why he's saying this, because remember, he's going to say that the Word took upon flesh. So what was interesting about Jesus' journey in the world was that when you saw him, you did not see the creator of the universe. You saw an average man. That's basically an average man. You know, he wasn't strikingly handsome, and he certainly wasn't strikingly ugly. He was just an average man. So the world, when you saw him, you didn't see as these goofy pictures would say that the halos and these goofy artist renditions. That's not what you see. And the music did not play. Oh, the music did not play. Like when you came across him, there was not some air that kind of oozed from him, and he walked around with glazed eyes, right? And there's just something about him that makes you melt. He was an average man, average looking man. The world did not recognize him. They didn't see the Son of God. Okay. Then he says he came to his own, meaning the Jewish people, and his own people did not receive him. In fact, they reject him the most. But then notice this statement here. But to all who received him, he gave them the right to be children of God, to those who believe in his name. Okay? So it's kind of laying out really the kind of almost a format of the gospel. So all who received, notice, all who did, they say he came into his own, but his own did not receive him, but to all who did receive him. Now we're going to explain this later. How do you receive him? He said he gave them the right to be children of God. So those who received him, he gave the right to be children of God, even to those who believed in his name. So those who believed in his name. Nothing else. And I say that this is the continuity. The word believe. The word believe here is the word for faith. So faith and belief is interchangeable. Belief is a verb, while faith is the noun. And what we're going to see, that this word belief and faith are in John some 98 times. And I say that because he's laying out to us what salvation is. And then we're going to explain this in great detail through the Gospel of John. So basically, this is why the Word came. That all who received him, he gave right to be the children of God, to those that believed in his name. So the continuity. Because here's the thing. Now, in Romans 10:9, it said that if thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in thy heart that God has raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. And the reason why I kind of stress that, I mean, I brought that up is because, the confession, it's good if you have a mouth, if you have a tongue. But not everybody has a mouth and a tongue. I'm serious. I saw a video, and I saw this one, and it says he was born this way without his lower from his nose down. All of this is gone. Now I used to see a guy around the area here that looked exactly like that, but that was the result of a shotgun. He shot. Okay. And believe it or not, that man found love. Anyway, okay. Excuse me. So he says, but all who received him, he gave them right to be the children of God. And so right here, John is giving us some revelation that we are more than just saved. Notice, he gave them right to be children of God to those who believe in his name. Notice, he didn't say baptize in water. He didn't say live right. He didn't say join the right church, attend church every Sunday, but those who believe. And the word faith and believe is to believe, to be persuaded by, to those who believe. That in terms of faith. Again, and then believe is the action. I believe, I have faith, I'm persuaded by the gospel. He gave them right to be children of God to those who believe in his name. Look at the next verse here, 13. Who were born not of blood, nor of the will of flesh, or of the will of man, but of God. But of God. So those who were born not of the will of flesh, not of the will of flesh, nor the will of man. Now, we're going to see later on the will of flesh would be all of your human efforts, your endeavors to get to God. But notice this term here, who were born. Now, Jesus will later use the term born again. Okay, he will use the term born again, so we'll get into that in chapter 3, obviously. But who were born. And the reason why this is important here, there is a debate. There is a debate, and the debate is generally called once saved, always saved. Now, and I'll get into more of this further down about religion. And again, so obviously I'm going to spend a little time in these first 18 verses. I think it's important because right here he lays out the plan of salvation. And what I often ask is when I debate people who do not believe or believe that you can lose your salvation. Okay, now get this. If you believe you can lose your salvation, so now you have to say that one, were you ever born, right, of him and became a child of God? Or are you on probation? See, I asked the question, what happens to you when you get saved? What happens to you when you get saved? And to some people, they're really not saved. That they are hoping that if they're good enough between the time they join church or whatever their version is getting saved, because they really don't believe they're saved, that they believe they're kind of on probation, and that they hope if I'm good enough, which I hope to be good enough, and as you had some people, I'm just trying to make heaven my home. I want to be in the number when the saints go marching in. But what happens? What about this right here? Look at verse 12 again. For all who did receive him, he gave them right to be children of God to those who believe in the name, who were born. So again, we're born. See, there's something that happens. And when I ask people, what happens to you when you get saved? They never answer this, that I'm born of God, that I'm born of God and become a child of God. They never answer this. That it is always some kind of works that you have to do. And I'm going to get to that later, but I'm going to explore that more. But John just laid it out for us in the nutshell. And then we're going to get more detail as we move through John and hear Jesus' own words. All right, guys, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comments section below. All comments are welcome, and I'll see you in the next study.